This conference will now be recorded.
So, Jeff, if you can change the screen out, that'd be great, just for a minute. So, everybody, Jeff's muting everybody for right now because we have a lot of people. We actually oversubscribed for this, and I want to thank everybody for listening. I think you're going to find this very informative and, quite honestly, entertaining. I did want to give a shout out real quick. We don't have sponsors. I'm joking around, but Wah and Jaime are our neighbors upstairs where we live at the Kincaid in Plano. It's in a high rise, and I've known them for a while. They're also real estate syndicators, investors. They are phenomenal optometrists. So the reason I've got a picture of Jaime up there and a little gift bag, I ran into him this morning and explained that my hay fever was so bad, I literally was having a hard time opening my eyes. And so it was unbelievable. They had literally a gift bag waiting for me. I'm very fortunate that he has his optometrist store literally right downstairs. And so it shops a legacy. So I stopped by there, and he gave me some eye drops and some other stuff to make me look as pretty as I can look. But my eyes are open, and so I want to give a shout out to those guys. He and his wife are phenomenal optometrists. I've got a couple pairs of glasses from them. Quite honestly, several of our clients use them as well. They're state of the art. And I will tell you that when I walked up to the front door, I thought I was going to be searched because they are so adamant about cleanliness and walking in. And there's a table right at the front door with a thermometer, wipes, aerosol. I wasn't sure if I was going to have a colonoscopy there. I was a little uncertain. I mean, I'm joking around, but they had everything there. Everybody was masked. Couldn't have felt more comfortable. And I was just there to pick up a bag. But anyway, absolute great services. If you're in the DFW area, highly recommend them at Shops of Legacy. And his wife, Wah, has an office at, oh my God, Uptown kind of area in where the Mi Casina is. I'm not even going to know the area. She can type it in. But I'm promoting Jaime because he's the one who actually took care of me. Anyway, we can take that. We can put that back up later. But if anybody wants to give him a shout, great. This is obviously going to be recorded and provided to everybody tomorrow. So you guys.
I love you, Merrill. I love you, Merrill. Only the best for you, buddy.
Is that Jaime?
Yes, sir.
I can't see you, but that's not because of the glasses. It's because you don't have your video on, but that's okay. By the way, that picture, go ahead.
No, they won't allow any more videos, so I couldn't hop on. So
yeah, we're oversubscribed too, but I'm glad you got in. Yeah, that picture was from your Facebook, and I had to Photoshop out the two naked women on your right shoulder. It was not easy. I just want you to know that. But actually, there were no naked women. Your daughter was in the picture, and at first I thought, oh, that's a great picture, but I didn't want to broadcast your daughter all over our deal. But again, thank you very much for the stuff. And I got to tell you, man, your team there is always friendly, always smiling. Whether they do that or not when I'm not there, I don't really care. But they're very, very friendly and inviting every time I've come up there. So you have a great operation there.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I'll check up on you in a couple of days, okay? To see how you're doing.
Listen, well, I mean, you live you're 3 doors down now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see you downtown. Sounds great.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Jeff, let me let's put back Brian's kind of picture that we had. I'm going to introduce you guys to a speaker of ours. It's pretty funny. I'm going to turn off my beeping. There we go. So Brian is an interesting character. So I was at an event. This is kind of the introduction. I was at an event. I don't mind saying it was Adam Adams' event in September, I think, of last year, maybe August, in Colorado, and it was basically a money-raising event or basically a money raising event, but more about market to potential investors, whether it's 506B or 506C. And they had a lot of big names, Neil Bawa and a bunch of other people. For some reason, they forgot to ask me to speak about that. I just spoke about legal as usual. But the vendors are kind of upstairs in a back area, and there's about 400 or 500 people downstairs. So in an open, big room, great room. So we could kind of hear people talking, and I think it was the first or second speaker. I'm talking to a couple people that are at our booth upstairs, and I hear this guy with kind of this like a little bit of a redneck twang, and I'm like, huh, that guy's interesting. And he's kind of loud, and he's kind of he's kind of in your face. And so I walk over to the edge of the kind of balcony because that's not what I was expecting to hear. And I see this sharp dressed guy in a white suit. Now he's going to argue it wasn't white, but it was in a white suit, and I believe it was after Memorial Day. So I'm not sure, according to my wife and 2 daughters, that he could actually be wearing that color white, but he wore it well. Let's put it that way. Anyway, he is talking about, and he's giving an example of how he trains people and helps certain clients of his raise capital. And it's in a manner that is so far opposite of what I have done since 2008 with hard money lending funds and single family funds and now multifamily. You know, I do it the same way as most people. You do the typical pitch deck, and it's 30 or 40 pages long, and it's blah, 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 blah. And you watch people drop off. It's pretty funny. You watch people drop off on the webinar. Your peak is at the beginning, and then towards the end, you know, you've got about 20% on the webinar. I'm listening to this guy, and I'm like, God, honestly, I'm like, what an asshole. Like, how can this guy sit there and kind of be that in your face? How could he ever raise capital? But anyway, and he's not an asshole, by the way. But anyway, it was a 2-day event. We were in the middle of a capital raise for one of our funds, and I got back home on a Monday, and I'm like, you know what? Just thinking about it, and something about what he said and the way he was saying it it was intriguing, and he wasn't cheap by any means. I could pay for his class and learn how to do it myself. But as you guys know, I'm not the smartest person out there, so it's much easier for me to hire much smarter people around me and just have them do everything. And so I basically told the team, hey, I want to hire this guy and see if he's good or not. But he cost, I think it was 25 grand to hire him to kind of prepare a presentation for us. We were about three and a half million shy of our funding, but we still had another 40 days. But there was something about him that intrigued me, and I don't gamble, I don't take risks. I hate departing with money for no reason. But I told our group, listen, if he can't raise his capital, the 25 grand will be out of my pocket. So it was pretty interesting. I called him. I said, I don't know where this is going. You intrigued me. I didn't even meet him at the event. I saw him. He was in, out, and I said, listen, I want to know what you can do, and I don't want to take the course because I don't have time. I got too many other things going on. But I want to do the 25 grand, and how quickly can you be here? So he wasn't sure if I was serious or not. And I said, we're serious. I said, I can wire you the money in 15 minutes if you tell me how quickly you can be here. So he was on a plane from Atlanta to our office the next day. And literally Brian shows up. We met in our building here at the Kincaid on the 7th floor. And he got the whole team there, all 5 of us that are partners in the manager's entity, and sat down with us, tried to understand our story, the differences between us, put together his own PowerPoint. We go back into his room. We had a room reserved for him to stay for a day. Told us this is the way you're going to post social media messages and email messages on how to get people into the webinar, how to get them excited about the webinar. And so I'm thinking, I don't know if this is going to work. Long story short, we're getting ready the day before, and I said, you know what? I want you to do the webinar. And he offered. He said, listen, if you guys want me to do it, I'm happy to do it. Sometimes I do it for people, sometimes they do it. I said, you know what? I want you to do it. I'm paying for you. I want to see, you know, if it works. And I heard your style. I don't think your style will resonate with my investors or my database, but let's see. So it was pretty entertaining. He gets on, of all things, and I'm not trying to give away his secrets, but of all times to do a webinar, we do it at 1 p.m. Central Time on a Thursday. Okay. That is never a time I would have done a webinar ever, but it was 1 p.m. Central Time on Thursday. He's been doing them for years and done the research, and that apparently is a really good time to get people excited about listening to webinars or events about raising capital. So anyway, we do it. It was funny. At the end of the webinar, there's a slide called a call to action slide where, you know, you guys need to contact them right now and set up an appointment. And it's basically a link into your Outlook calendar. It's a calendaring item. So we're doing it. I've got Jeff's on this call. He's our COO. He's our geek. And we're doing this webinar. Jeff happened to be out of the office that day. His dad had come to visit him from Florida. And I get a call about 4 minutes after the webinar from Jeff saying, holy shit, Merrill, someone has just hacked our email, our Outlook. I'm like, Jeff, what are you talking about? He's like, you don't understand. Someone has hacked your Outlook, my Outlook, and Cindy's Outlook. And now you've got like 12 scheduled meetings. Cindy's got 7. I even have 5. This is Jeff speaking. And our partners at Sharma's had some. It was crazy. And so I'm laughing because at the end of the webinar, I'm thinking, okay, this was kind of in your face. I don't know if this is going to resonate with anybody. So anyway, long story short, we essentially funded the delta with the meetings we had set up between, that was on a Thursday, Friday, and Monday. And then we started turning away money because we had already hit the amount we needed. So from my perspective, Brian cost us 25 grand to raise. We raised close to 3 or 3.5 million. So 0.75% was my expense. And just so we're clear, there was no set amount. He could have raised 0. He could have raised whatever. He is simply a person that was hired to do a PowerPoint presentation for us. Got nothing else aside from it. So completely legal. Granted, we did a 506C, but it would work with a 506B with your database. But I'm going to introduce him and let him tell you more about it. Highly recommend you listen to the whole thing. He is not going to present like a typical person you've met that would be talking about capital raising. But I'm telling you, it works. It shocked me. It works. I will use him again on our next fund. There's no doubt I will use him again. So anyway, I'm going to let Brian take over for right now, and I may jump in if I'm allowed to, but Brian is pretty good at handling things.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. I'm trying to start my presentation here. Bear with me 1 second. You might see my wife on the screen behind me, or maybe not. I don't know.
Yes.
So let's see here. So now you should see a screen that says maybe strange times, right?
Yep.
All right, good. Folks, these are strange times we're in, to put it lightly. You know, something has thrown a huge monkey wrench into all of our lives, and you know, for some it's more for some it's more like a devious, venomous, murderous freaking wrecking ball than a monkey wrench. And of course, that thing is the coronavirus, and more specifically, it's the horrible, horrendous impact that thing has had on our economy. And look, there's something strange going on right now, and I bet you've noticed it too. On the one hand, folks, what we have is in the last 6 to 8 weeks, the U.S. economy has literally crumbled under the weight of this shutdown. Yes, what was that? Was that for me? Okay, got it. So in the last 6 weeks, what we have is the economy has literally crumbled under the weight of the coronavirus shutdown. It's just insane. Unemployment has gone So high that even the worst newspaper in America, the New York Times, managed to get a headline right when they said, how bad is unemployment? Literally off the charts. And CNBC, their assessment of things is even more grim. They're saying the economy is clearly in ruins here. And we can all see the carnage around us. It's obvious. Look, listen, folks, not a single person under the sound of my voice right now has ever experienced anything like what we've seen. None of us. The economic carnage we've seen in the past 2 months was literally unthinkable, even just a single day before it happened. Think about that. One day, something that could not be imagined, and the next day it happens. That's where we are. But on the other hand, the month of April for the stock market was one of the very best months by far in the history of stocks, with the Dow booming by about, what was it? I think it was about 12% in 1 month, in one 30-day cycle. Just about every one of you would be thrilled to offer 12% to your investors in a given year, but the Dow did it in 30 days. How does that work? I mean, think about it. Right in the middle of an absolute economic carnage situation, stocks are booming. How does that work? And at the very same time, folks, the Wall Street Journal tells us that more money than ever before, a whopping $297 billion, is being raised for blind real estate investment funds. Now, a blind fund is where you just put your money in and they say, here's what we're going to do, but we're not telling you what assets we're going to do it with. We're just kind of hoping it's going to work. It's astonishing, absolutely flabbergasting, just mind-blowing. Look, everybody seems to be paying attention and remembering that advice from Warren Buffett, his old advice. You probably all heard this before. His old advice about be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. But my friends, I want to be the first to tell you, old Buffett gave you some really bad advice there. If the ocean is an economy and old Buffett is out for a sail, he's still going to drown and die if his boat leaks, isn't he? It doesn't matter if he's feeling greedy. Doesn't matter if he's feeling fearful. Same for you too. Same for your syndication too. That's reality, my friends. But, and here's where we're going to transition into how you can raise more capital. That little quote, there we have a perfect example, a classic example of just how powerful it can be to guide people to feel a certain way about their money. I'm telling you this, right now is a terrifying time to be putting money into a blind real estate fund for under most circumstances. Yet, $297 billion worth of American dollars are doing exactly that. Why? Well, it's their hope, it's their fear, it's their greed. But there's not a lot of rationality going on for most of these situations. It's kind of scary. But that, my friends, is how astoundingly powerful it can be to communicate in a way that actually moves people to action. And at the core, what Buffett did right there, even though his advice was woefully incomplete, what he did was use the power of a few simple words to drive people to action that they probably wouldn't have otherwise ever seriously or even vaguely considered. Right now, everybody's thinking, it's a time of fear. I've got to be greedy. I bet every one of you has heard that sometime in the last 2 months, haven't you? That's where we are. That's the power of using good words. So where capital raising is concerned, my friends, you've got to ask yourself this question. What's different? What's different about the fundamentals of raising capital right now? Right now, now that we're in a coronavirus, pandemic-centric, economically shut down world, what's changed about the fundamentals of capital raising in that light? I'll tell you what's changed, my friends. I'll tell you what's changed right now. The answer to that? Nothing. Nothing. Not one damn thing. That's right. Nothing is different. If anything, it's easier to raise capital right now than it's ever been in my lifetime, at least. How can I say that honestly? It's simple. Simple. Virtually everybody does it wrong nearly all of the time. At least, at the very least, you probably do it far worse than you could if you knew just one key principle that none of you know. So if you're new to capital raising, you need to pay very close attention to what Meryl and I have to share with you tonight, because we're going to do a little bit of back and forth here in just a minute. If you're not new to capital raising, you need to listen more closely. You people that are experienced, you guys need to listen even more closely. Why? Well, that's because there's no end. I'm going to not feign any sort of humility at the moment. There's no end to the number of clients I have who will tell you that they thought they had extracted every last penny of investment capital possible from their followers, only to have me produce millions upon millions of dollars of additional capital for them from the same audiences that they thought were dry, usually within a matter of 24 to 48 hours, kind of like what Meryl just told you about. And tonight I'm going to tell you that one thing. If you do it correctly, capital raising really becomes easy. It's taking candy from a baby type of easy. It's life-changing, get rich, change your life kind of easy. And I'm not bluffing you. This one thing is not bait and switch. This is the one thing. In fact, I'll tell you what it is right now. And first, what I want to do is turn off these slides and look at you straight in the eye for a minute. Now, can you guys see me?
Yes.
All right, cool. Here's the secret. There's the secret and then how to use it. We're going to start with what the secret is. There is one thing that every single person on earth wants. Everybody. Me, you, everybody. Almost nobody knows that they want it. They're really not even aware of it, but everybody wants it. What is that thing? It's leadership. They want somebody, particularly in times like this when things are terrifying out there, when nobody really knows the direction. They want somebody who will stand up in front of them with a steel spine, with not a damn bit of quiver in their voice, and with absolute confidence say, I am the man, God damn it, follow me. And if you can do that, raising money is like taking candy from a baby. Now, there's some things that matter. You got to have great deals. You got to be able to express the reasons for your confidence, and you've got to be able to do it in such a way where people feel magnetically drawn. Even if they don't like you personally, they feel magnetically drawn to what you're saying. That's what I do. That's why what I do is so different than everybody else's way of raising capital. And this is why I raise and am typically able to raise more money from my clients' databases than they are, or than they even expected to be able to. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is how to do that. Meryl, I think probably what would make some sense here is I could keep just talking, but you know your people far better than I do. So why don't you and I chat a little bit? What do you suggest we take as a path right here?
Well, I just want to let you know we have women, so you're not only the man, you're the woman also that people want.
Indeed.
To yes. I say this because I know Brian's wife, and if I don't say it, she's going to hop on and say it right now. But listen, I think, and I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't know every single person on here. We got some new people that have signed up, which I'm excited about, but I think I'm going to speak for myself. One, it's uncertain, and I'm a pretty confident person. At least the people on here think I'm a confident person most of the time. And I'm still not confident about how much capital I can raise. However, you know, when I took a gander on you, and I'm like, you know what? Let's see what happens with Brian Ellis. And part of me was like, yeah, I don't have to pay the 25 grand myself. And then another part of me was like, well, shit, how come I couldn't do that? Because we didn't get any more. There were not an additional number of people that we sent this. He's got a whole. It's an art. I can't explain it. It's an art that gets people to a crescendo and a call to action where they can't. It's almost like they can't help themselves. They knew they wanted to do it, but they didn't know they wanted to do it. I couldn't bring that. We were doing webinars, and I say our partners, we couldn't get the same volume. We were getting like 30, 40, 50 people on a webinar, and I'm going to be nice, shithead right here, who in my mind was overpaid before any of this happened, he gets like 178 people, and they're my people. Mine meaning our group's people. And I'm thinking to myself, how is it he can do this with the right, just different words? And I'm a lawyer, I can wordsmith the hell out of anything. And I can't do it, but he can do it. And I'm thinking he's kind of abrasive when he talks too. He's a little bit of Rush Limbaugh. Someone said that here. Take that as a compliment, Brian. But I mean, it would be great, number one, if you had some kind of like excerpts about, how you do this, even if it's like from mine or someone else's. In the end, there was a good question. I'm not gonna, I mean, it's public anyway, but Emily asked, when was the last time you did this? Was ours the last time you did it? And I said, oh no. I said, Brian doesn't even return my calls anymore because it's all about, Brian, and I'm nothing now. I'm kidding. But Brian's very busy. He's very selective on who he does his deals with. But he's working on 2 deals now that I told him he can talk about at the end. He's not promoting the deals. He's just going to tell you what he's working on, and they're raising capital today in today's time. And I don't care if you guys don't use him at all. It really doesn't matter to me, but we're using him. We used him before. We're using him again on a new venture that we're talking about putting together. And it's an open-ended fund, not your normal fund, but it's something that I did with a couple people that are still with me, Jeff and Kate being one of them, with single family. Those were all open-ended funds in 2010, 2011, 2012. I didn't put the money together. I saw the big private equity firm put the money together, and that money couldn't be more excited about investing during the recession. It was amazing. I don't have that capability. Brian has a way with words, and is that Brian speaking? No. Brian has a way with words, and the way his call to action was amazing. Brian, I don't know if you have like a little 2-minute or 3-minute clip of kind of how you do these things. It's definitely worth listening. Sure. I would have thought it never would work. And I don't know why Lance McGee is yawning, but I got to figure out why he's got to wake up for this. He's drinking a beer, that's why. But yeah, if you can tell everybody, give people a little example, it would be great.
Yeah, I'm going to, why don't I pull up, and to answer the question that I think you said, Emily, or maybe Melanie or someone like that asked, when's the last time I did this?
It was Emily. Don't mess her name
the
up.
answer to that would be literally earlier today. I did another one of my $25,000 consultation deals today. The last time I did it before that was 1 week ago today. I do this a lot. And I don't really have to adjust what I do a whole lot because, and this is the powerful thing, ladies and gentlemen, a human brain is a human brain is a human brain. We all think we all think exactly the same way, except for those of us who are actually insane. We all have different information that we make those decisions from, but we all think the same way. And so I use an approach, and I have a 2-day class where I teach this too, and it's consistent enough that I'm able to give the people who come to that class, I give them a template and say, just do this, fill in your information and put it there in the script and in the slides, and you're done. Now, it can be done better than that and such, but even doing just that is going to put you so far in advance of everybody else, including, by the way, the people you see speaking on stages at capital raising seminars. You will instantly be better than all of them. So let me here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull up a piece of a script.
Hey, Brian,
that,
Brian, let me hop in 1 second while you pull it up, because this is going to be important. So one thing Brian does that amazes me is he scripts out every single word he is going to say in the webinar. Totally different. If you guys have heard me, I love to go by the seat of my pants. I like winging it, because I'm used to arguing with judges and lawyers, and you get all sorts of stuff. Brian is extremely scripted, because when he is either promoting a client's deal or teaching other people how to do it, words mean everything. And the placement of the words mean everything. So I just wanted, when he says he's pulling up a script, I'm not kidding. We saw him write a verbatim script that was an hour long. And again, it sounds like this is an infomercial. It's not. I've had so many people asking, it's tough raising capital right now. We're not sure if there's capital out there, but you don't know unless you go out and try to see if there's capital out there. And this works, by the way. Someone asked 506B, 506C. It works for either one. I'm a 506C person. That's just what I've always done. 506B is the same thing. You have 600 people that are in your group, or 500. You're normally only raising money from 85, 70, 85, 95 people, if that many. That means there are another 400 or 500 that you couldn't either appeal to in that deal, or they may just not have had money or didn't like the deal. So anyway, Brian, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but when you say you're pulling up a script, it's important, because this is part of your process.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When I work with a client, what I do is I sit with them for 2 to 5 hours, basically, and pepper them with all kinds of questions so I know everything about their deal. And the vast majority of what they tell me does not end up in the webinar. That's one of the key things about my style, is that there's actually a whole lot less data in it than you're accustomed to. You're accustomed, probably every one of you who have seen a capital raising webinar, they all look the same. They have a slide at the beginning that has 4 or 5 images that are all the principles, and you have a little bit of their resume next to them, and then the person reads that, and then somewhere in there is a slide from the pro forma that shows the next 5 years and what all that looks like, and you give lots and lots of data, and you maybe there's a nice chart and graph that shows your org chart. They're all the same, and nobody cares. Like, nobody cares about any of that stuff. You don't care. Like, and it's your deal. How many of you have read your own PPMs? I would guess none of you, maybe 1 or 2, but almost nobody. Now, with that in mind, let me go ahead and tell you that roughly, well, Merrill, you just enjoy your own writing, man. Me too.
I will say, Brian, that this group will have a higher majority of people reading the PPMs, because we make them read the PPMs. We purposely put mistakes in there to see if they read them.
Good. Well, that's always a positive thing.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
Here's how I start out my webinars, guys. Before coronavirus, I started out pretty much always with, hi, I'm Brian Ellis. I'll tell you a little bit more about me later on, but first I want to start with 3 shocking facts. Now, why would I do that? Everybody else starts in a different way. They all start by saying, hey, I'm Brian Ellis. Let me tell you a little bit about my background. I went to college here. I've done this many deals. You know what? Nobody gives one little damn at this point. They don't know you. Maybe they do know you, but even if they do not care. They're not there to hear about you. They're there to hear about a deal. They're there to hopefully find a way to make money. So I skip that. I come back to it a little bit later when it's relevant, but it's not relevant yet. So I'll start out with 3 shocking facts about the deal. Now, I have made one adjustment in light of the coronavirus situation. I now start out by talking about the thing that is the scariest, which is the coronavirus situation. That little spiel that I just went through with you at the beginning that started out with strange times and had the Wall Street Journal clip, and it had the the Warren Buffett part. That's actually from the very front side of the webinars that I use for my own raises. And I say all that stuff for a very specific reason. Very specific reason. It's because that is how I lead into saying, you know, people are making crazy decisions out there right now. And this is how I transition. These are the actual words that I use. So I implore you to adopt stringent standards for deploying your capital at this time. Those standards must include, to my way of thinking, 3 gold standard criteria during this dangerous time. Gold standard criteria number 1, the presently profitable project. The asset must be clearly profitable under current conditions on the day of closing, no matter how challenging or how virus infested those conditions may be. And gold standard number 2, a proven playbook. There must be a blatantly clear path to greater profitability that does not depend on improving economic conditions. And there must be hard evidence in advance that using this playbook on the project's asset does in fact create substantially greater profitability. And gold standard number 3, absolute operational excellence. The management team behind the opportunity must have exceptional, proven, and documented expertise as multifamily operators who can and who have repeatedly driven up profits in project after project after project. Now, I start off like that because if you listen to those gold standards, one of them being it's presently profitable, number 2 being there's a proven plan to make it even more profitable, and number 3 is absolute operational excellence. I chose those for 2 reasons. One of them is because you can't deny that if you have those 3 things in place, you got good odds, right? Those are all fundamentals, like they're all just undeniably true. But I chose them for another reason. Well, those are strong points for my deal. And so the rest of the script is basically just an exercise in taking those 3 points and saying, this is why my deal meets that standard. Standard number 1, standard number 2, standard number 3. And we do so in a way that's not data heavy. It's not dry. It's not dull. There's a lot of intensity. There's a lot of up and down in the voice. And it's very carefully scripted. And the result is at the end, we have a call to action. And actually, Merrill, one of the things I'm doing slightly differently now than I did with you even is that we're putting the call to action in at the very front of the presentation. Because in my experience, come again?
You can't do that, Brian. Then
yeah, I know.
I'm too busy looking at my calendar and I can't hear your presentation then. How can I concentrate on your presentation when everybody is hitting my calendar, man?
Yeah, it's tough. I'm sorry it's so difficult for you, but yeah, I got to say, whenever I did that with you guys, I was on, as you know, I was on site with you. And normally when I do these webinars, I'm here in my office, like you see the green screen behind me and all that. I'm here in my studio, and so normally it's just me. And that day it was really funny. When I was done, I guess you guys had already gotten most of the response then. I knew you had because I could see the chat. But you guys in the other room broke into applause. That was kind of nice. I'm not accustomed to that. But here's the thing. We have a call to action. And the call to action, Merrill is asking me to talk about that, and I'll tell you about it. But the call to action is not the key. The call to action is just kind of the culmination. The call to action is when I say basically, you know, go to this URL, set up a time to talk with the team as quickly as possible. If you don't, you're probably not going to get in. Go here, do it now. And then I say that over and over in different contexts to kind of drive the point home. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. My style of writing is based on the fact that I've been doing webinars and writing sales copy for years and years and years. Like I know what people want. I know what you want. What you want, what everybody wants, aside from leadership, everybody wants what sounds interesting, but that they think maybe they won't be able to get. It's called fear of missing out. And so here's a problem that a lot of you have that I don't have, and I'm going to tell you how to solve it right now. The problem that a lot of you have is that you basically apologize for needing to raise several $1 million. You apologize for it. It's like you're sheepish about it. Would any of you be interested in seeing how I reveal how much money I'm raising and how much they have to put in? Would that be of interest to any of you? Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to read that short section. Is that okay with you, Merrill?
Yes, go for it. Yeah.
I didn't quite hear. Okay, there you are. Bear with me here 1 second. I'm going to find that. All right. Now, just the lead in here so that I don't have to read the whole thing to you. At this point, I've already kind of pointed out that Wall Street Journal article to them that I pointed out to you, where it says that $297 billion of capital is being raised just in April for blind funds. So with that setting in the background, listen to this. And we also know from that Wall Street Journal article I just mentioned, and by the way, this is in the first 5 minutes of the presentation. It is not at the end. It's not hidden away. And we also know from that Wall Street Journal article I just mentioned that savvy investors are clearly going on the offense to capitalize on this unexpected and likely short-term economic dip. The appetite for opportunity among affluent investors right now is so voracious and apparently so indiscriminate that one firm down in Florida, Kay and Anderson, did a $1.3 billion capital raise already, which under normal circumstances would take them 12 to 18 months. They did it in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Basically, all of that money is being raised, and this being raised is going into blind funds. They're just investing on the hope and presumption that a good opportunity will appear. That's amazing. Now, in this project, we will not be raising $1.3 billion or anything close to it. We're seeking a relatively tiny amount of investor capital, only $4.5 million. That means there's theoretically space for a maximum of 45 different investors at $100,000 each. So we have extremely limited space for participation from qualified investors. With that in mind, for those of you with whom I've had the pleasure of working in the past and who I know will be inclined to participate in this project too, I'm going to encourage you to go ahead right now and get one of those 45 spots by going over to whatever the URL is right now. And for those of you with whom I've not yet had the pleasure of working, let's go ahead and look at why. Before we even reach the end of this presentation, so many of our existing investors will have already gone over there and reduced those 45 available openings to a much smaller number than that. Now, do you get the sense from having heard that I'm apologizing, scared, or fearful about being able to raise that $4.5 million? What do you think? Well, the answer is no, I am not concerned about it. Nobody gets that impression. And what happens is that we are quantifying this in a way that they can understand. See, $4.5 million sounds like a lot of money to just about anybody, and it is a lot of money. But 45, that's not a big number. We can all understand that. And it is in fact the case that $100,000 is our minimum. So at most, we're going to have 45 people. Now, think about it. There are 153 people on this line right now, and I can tell you, if you guys were people who came here as a result of the kind of marketing that I do to get people on a webinar to raise capital, I would easily get 45 of you out of a group of 152. And if I had a bad night, it would be 30 or so of you. I'd have almost all of the capital based just on a group of this size. Now, here's why I'm telling you that. Because if you know how many people are on the line, like there are 152 right now, or 153, whatever it is, and I've only got 45 spots, and I point that out to you, what does that say to your mind without you even thinking about it? It means you can't all play. That's not the way this goes. You can't all come in. And throughout the presentation, I do something else too. I mentioned the fact that it's not just about the money. Yeah, you have to be accredited
investor.
Yeah, I'm losing my memory there. How can I forget the term accredited investor?
On this particular
you have to
deal.
be an accredited investor. What's that?
On this particular deal you're talking about.
Yeah. You have to be an accredited investor, yes. You have to have the $100,000 and you have to have it right now, yes. But the other thing you've got to do is you got to talk to somebody from the team and make sure that you guys mesh, because we're going to be working with you for the next 3 to 5 years. We got to like each other and make sure we're on the same page. So it's not just about whether you have the money. Now think about it. Does that sound different from what you're accustomed to? Does that sound different from the way you've done it before? I'll bet it does. And here's the reality. And this is shocking to most people. And this will sound arrogant. I really don't mean it that way. Let's Bhuvan, hey man, how are you? Bhuvan was witness to the carnage that I'm talking about right now.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Good, man. Good to see you.
Good seeing you. Thank you.
So here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just imagine that you've been doing this a little while, and maybe you have a database. Maybe it's a tiny database. Maybe it's a big database. It doesn't matter. Almost without exception, I can tell you that even though your database knows you and your database does not know me, I will be able to raise more from your database than you would have a prayer of ever being able to raise. Now, it's not because you're incompetent. It's not because you're bad at running syndications. It's not because your deal's bad. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's that you are talking to the wrong part of their brain. You are talking to your investor's logical brain. And that's important. You need to share data with them. You need to give facts to them. But that's not where you start. I mean, just think about it. If you're walking through the woods and something slithers in front of you, what do? You jump back. Like, it's automatic. You don't stop and think, well, I believe that was a snake. Did my eyes play a trick on me? No, it didn't. What kind of snake is it? And should I jump back? No, it's not what happens. You jump. It's automatic. That's the way your brain works. Your brain works first off of automatic response, and then it works off of emotion. And only after it has formed an impression based on automatic response and based on emotion, only after it's formed an impression does logic and reason even matter at all. And I'm not telling you you shouldn't be logical. I'm not telling you you shouldn't be reasonable. I went to one of the top engineering schools in the world on a full academic scholarship. I'm a pretty logical guy. I'm telling you that's not where you start, because if you do, you're going to give away a lot of opportunity. You're going to give away a lot of capital that you could have raised just because you did things in the wrong order. Now, I know you don't know how to do this yet, but does this seem like maybe possibly it might make sense? Like maybe possibly in the real world this could work? What do you think? Check your head yes or no, so I know where we are. Yeah.
Guys, and I'm the only one that can speak right now besides Brian. And Bhuvan is on, thank goodness, because he'll attest to it. We had doubts. We did not think that this, again, don't take it wrong, this Rush Limbaugh type in your face was going to resonate with investors, and holy shit, it resonated. And quite honestly, the investors it resonated with had higher dollar amounts they wanted to invest. And so, and I wanted to just say something on here. You know, he's talking about a deal he's working on. He's not trying to promote it to you guys. I don't want you to think that, but you almost start thinking, okay, well, I want to know about the deal he's talking about. Listen, it's so funny. We all clapped at the end, and I literally went home that night and I told my wife, we need to put more money into the fund. Okay, I didn't say let's put more money into the fund because I read my own PPM and the pitch deck that Jeff and Bhuvan and Pratima and we had all worked on. No, I heard his webinar again. I went back and listened to it again afterwards, and I'm like, well, this is a good deal. Why am I not putting more money in the fund? And you guys know me. Those of you who don't know me, you'll figure out pretty quickly. I'm very transparent. I don't hide the ball on anything. And my biggest weakness is asking people for money. I hate asking people for money. And what Brian did for me, and my guess is the same thing for the Sharmas, probably more so for me, was I'm not asking for money. I'm actually giving people an opportunity to invest in something that others won't get the opportunity to do. And when you listen to him, and listen, I already told you guys, I'm lazy. I said, Brian, I don't want the 6 grand or 8 grand 2-day thing. I don't have time for that. You say you know how to do this, prove to me you can raise more money out of our investors. And the son of a bitch did, which really pissed me off because it made me feel like I was kind of incompetent. But I think it's important, and I thought it was important to bring him on and talk about this, because I think a lot of us right now are kind of tiptoeing over whether our investors really want to put more money into things. And I'm telling you, they do. There may be some that don't, but you don't really need to have everybody. He just made it clear. You know, there have been off and on 180 to 148 on here, people coming in and out. You know, he needs, if it's 100K per person, you need to raise $9 million. That's 90 people. Do 2 of these. The reality is, guys, you're all on here right now because of what I learned from him. So I took a couple little pieces of how he markets to get people on the webinar, and my Tuesdays with the teams went from about 130 RSVPs to over 350 RSVPs. All I did was Brian said, hey, do me a favor. This was yesterday morning. Let's do a couple additional emails like we normally did when we were raising capital, and let's see how many people we can get in. And so it's great. So 75 people got knocked out. They RSVP'd though, so they'll get a copy of this later. But just getting you guys on, honestly, I mean, you didn't come on to listen to me talk. You came on to listen to Brian, who you've never heard of. And so it's so hard to explain, and I wish to God I could do it and I could charge what he does. But for us, I'm speaking for Bhuvan, who I've got on mute, but I think he'll nod his head and agree. If he doesn't, I'll hear about it later. I think it was very, he's nodding his head, he's smiling, there we go. I think it was very important to see it work. And then once it worked, it was like, okay, I can see us using him again, especially from a larger database where, honestly, like he said, we really don't know our investor database. We think we do, but I didn't know that they would resonate with someone like him. So anyway, I thought it was funny to add that literally we came home, we put like another 75 grand in solely because I listened to someone else give the pitch about our deal. And again, that kind of pisses me off, and I'm almost embarrassed to admit it to you guys, but I'm a transparent person, and I like to call out people that have unique abilities and services that I can't do. And if it looks like we're a value add place, great, then we get more legal fees, and you guys, you know, come to us for more stuff. This guy works. You may not like him, you may not want to pay him, you may think he's expensive. If you're a business person and you step back and you think about your time, your commitment, how much time you spend on raising capital, and I looked at it, if the guy costs whatever, I think mine was 25 grand, he probably overcharged me and probably charges you guys less because he knew I was a lawyer. I'm just kidding, but 25 grand, and let's say we only raised 2.5 million, that's 1%. Okay, it cost 1%. That's part of my closing costs when I do the fund. That's a closing cost, and Bhuvan thinks it's 5%. Was it 5%?
I don't know. I was just going to speak. Go ahead, finish off. Okay.
Okay. Bhuvan will chime in after me. Hopefully, he won't say anything bad about me. But it's, you know, it's interesting. Focus on where your time is best spent. I highly recommend it. You know, I'm a lawyer. I do a lot of things. You guys know I do a ton of things. I don't do any of it by myself. There is always a we. There is really never a Meryl. You got Roxy on here who works her ass off. You got Rob on here. You got Jeff. You got a couple other people. They're all, you know, Team Meryl, and it's really not Team Meryl. It's just team. Brian, in my mind, is another tool. I'm not calling you a tool, but you're a
Yeah,
tool. I'm going back to the 80s. But he's another tool or a quiver in your, an arrow in your quiver. You know, and quite honestly, if I worry less about having to raise capital, I can focus more on the deal flow. Then I can focus more time on the deal. Doesn't mean I completely ignore it. You are 100% in tune with what Brian's doing. And again, you may not like the fact that it drove me nuts when I saw the initial, he gave us like an initial presentation, and literally Bhuvan and I and Pratima and Jeff had painstakingly put together so much detail in our PowerPoint that I think it was, I don't know, it had video, it had all sorts of crap. and it was probably like 70 slides or 60 slides at one point. And then Brian comes in and he's got 3 bullet points, and then a lot of blah, 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 and then 3 bullet points, then a lot of blah, blah, blah. And again, I went into it like, okay, I just lost my 25 grand. Nothing's going to happen. And I couldn't have been more pleasantly surprised. I'm going to let Bhuvan, who I didn't know was going to speak, let him chime in. Bhuvan?
Yeah, sure. Hey, a couple of things I want to say. Brian, actually, when we needed him, he actually created a great momentum and have us kickstart the what we wanted to do. So it really worked out very well. So Brian, thank you. No.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure. And you know, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Bhuvan is right. We had gotten to a point where we still had time, but honestly, we felt like, okay, well, we've hit our group, and and I think the raise was 9 million or something like that. Not a huge raise, but it's like, okay, we're 3 million short. We're gonna have to do something now. We're gonna have to figure out something. And then we heard Brian, Bhuvan, and Pratima were at the event with me. We all went to kind of go see if there's different ways to capital raise. And when he came into the office, he just like ignited us. Especially because, again, he raised capital on behalf of us for people that he couldn't do. Is Brian available for any syndicator to use to help raise capital? Yeah, I don't own Brian. I wish I did. Brian and I are just friends. Someone's asking a question, are you available for any syndicator to use? I would say he's available, but I will tell you, this is not part of his speech, but I guess I could say it his way. Brian is very selective. So there are 155 of you or whatever on here, and Brian's only going to select 7 or 8. So you need to call to action and go to his. I'm kidding. He is busy, but yes, he's available. But I don't. This is not the Merrill show this time. Normally it is the Merrill show. And I know a lot of you are hopping on to another call. I'm actually in a mastermind with some of you, and I'm going to hop on to it a little bit at 7:30. But I wanted, and there's only just a few of you that are hopping off. I just wanted to emphasize it's very interesting to watch this guy work, and no one has to do, you don't even have to use him. Just listening to what you've heard should get you thinking about kind of what's going on. Brian may provide a little PowerPoint or a cheat sheet that we send out tomorrow with a copy of this to everybody. But there are a couple of ways to do it. I'm lazy. I was like, shit, I'm gonna pay the 25 grand, do the whole damn thing for me. I don't have time. That's me. There are others who would say, okay, you know what, I'll just take the class. It's a 2-day class. Great, I'll take the class. I'll learn how to do this. I save myself 19 grand, and you might do it. I mean, you'll do it. Brian's gonna do it better. Pisses me off. He's gonna do it better. Listening to him talk, I'm thinking about things I could be doing for this blind fund I'm working on that I just hadn't thought of. And it pisses me off that I've heard this thing 5 times. I've listened to our own PowerPoint that he presented 5 times. And there were a couple things I just clicked again when he started talking. So part of it is I'm not having Brian give away the entire kitchen sink. The idea was to, number one, get you guys to understand. I say guys, I mean girls as well, gals as well. Get you folks to understand that, there's a lot of, and maybe rightfully so, there's a lot of fear, and the sky is falling, everybody, the sky is falling, Chicken Little's running everywhere, everything you see on social media is horrible, blah, blah, blah. The reality is, yeah, there's a virus, it's bad. We can all take different positions on how bad it is or it isn't, but everybody here is alive and kicking, and the actual death rate is much lower than we thought. Still, any death is a bad death, but that's not going to stop dry powder out there from wanting to put money in. Should the economy be where it is because of the pandemic? Who knows? It's too late. We don't have it. We can't go back and second guess. But Brian is absolutely right, and I think I've been saying it a lot on social media. There is a lot of dry powder out there. Dry powder, for those of you that don't know the term, that's capital. And I know for a fact from being in the single family realm for so long with private equity, they have been salivating and waiting to learn, excuse me. I'm reading an email chat, waiting for this correction. I don't think anybody could have predicted this type of a correction, but we've been due for a correction. So investors, large investors and accredited investors have been stockpiling cash. market's going up and down, but guys, there's not a lot of volume in the market. There's a lot of cash sitting on the sidelines. They're waiting. They're literally waiting for opportunities. And guys, the opportunities are out there. It's just kind of like I tell people with opportunity zones. Brian hit the nail on the head with the standards. You know, he has the 3 gold standards. It's like opportunity zones. I think opportunity zones, honestly, I'm going to say it publicly, are pieces of shit. I think they're opportunity zones because nobody wanted to invest them in the first place. So we're going to create an opportunity zone to get people to invest where they didn't want to invest. However, there are some opportunity zones that were created by politicians because they had to cover some friends. There's some beautiful opportunity zones in Atlanta, and there's one in Plano, and I don't know of any opportunity zone in Plano, but there's a nice piece of property in Plano that is labeled opportunity zone. So the reality that I tell clients is, listen, I'm going to keep my opinion to myself on an opportunity zone. Bottom line, if you do this asset and you take out the benefits of being in an opportunity zone, and it still has the return you're looking for without the extra benefits of capital, tax-free capital appreciation or a discount on the taxes, if it's still a good deal, then do the deal, because you have to be in that deal for 10 years. Shit might happen during those 10 years. So if you can look at yourself, run the numbers and say, hey, if I get in this deal with investors and in 5 years, it's still a good deal, whether we sell, whether it gets a tax benefit or not, great. But it has to be a good deal today. It can't be a non-cash flowing, you know, just piece of crap asset that you're going to try to push people on right now in a market that's not good. There are a lot of cash flowing deals out there that are over leveraged that are great opportunities. I've seen a couple, I can't even go after them because they're clients. A couple that are really, really good opportunities. Anyway, Brian, I didn't mean to interrupt. I simply just wanted to press upon people and reiterate what Bhuvan had stated, that just listening to you reinvigorates me. I mean, Bhuvan sending me text, hey, we need to start, you know, we need to start going raising more capital because we're a couple deals we want to go after right now for our fund. We need to start doing that again. And we do need to start doing that again because there are people asking and there's people still inquiring about our deal from your presentation. It's pretty funny. But I don't know if you have some additional words you want to.
Yeah. I mean, I've actually got to go too because I'm going to be doing a webinar to raise capital here in less than an hour.
So you kind of explained a little bit about it. Was that your 2-minute spiel, or did you want to talk any more about it? I'm not promoting it.
Let me say all that from a different angle. Merrill has talked repeatedly tonight about paying me 25 grand and having me help with this syndication and stuff. And I still do that a lot. Like the last time I did one of those, you know, it's a 1-day process. It's a day and a half sometimes, but it costs 25 grand and I create a great webinar for my clients and it pretty consistently ends up blowing their minds. But you know what, here's how powerful this stuff is and why you need to learn it one way or the other. It's so powerful. And I think Merrill will attest to this too. I always give my clients a money back guarantee. Like what I tell them is I will make the webinar. I'll write the script. I'll create the slides. We'll get back together the next morning before I deliver it to your audience. And I will go over it word for word with you, read it to you, make sure you feel good about it. And if there's anything about it that you don't like, that makes you nervous for any reason whatsoever, I'll give you your money back and we'll part ways as friends. Well, do you know how many people have ever taken me up on that? None, ever. Because
Brian,
the stuff works.
You weren't supposed to say that. Bhuvan is still listening, and he thought I was taking all the risk by having you come on board. Now he knows I had no risk. And now I'm just a normal person like everybody else. Bhuvan's smiling at me. But no, I mean, we talked about it. We knew that. We talked about that. And we same thing. We're like, okay, so really, what do we have to lose? A plane? We agreed we'd pay for your plane ticket here and back if it didn't benefit. But I think, and Bhuvan, you can nod your head or not. I think after about talking to you for about 30 minutes in the office, we had a feeling that there was going to be something good that came out of it. You just instilled confidence that I don't know if we lost it, but it was just kind of, we tried our investors, and you know, we get people on the webinar, but shit, we watch it go from 70 to 40 to 30 to 20 by the end of the webinar. And so I'm a data guy, love data. You guys know I love to push KPIs out. I am watching, I'm going to refer to you eloquently as a son of a bitch. I am watching this son of a bitch talk for an hour and 15 minutes, and we had 98% still on at the end of the hour and 10 or hour and 15 minutes. That pissed me off because I couldn't get people when we were talking about it, and Bhuvan and I couldn't get people. You know, we were running at like 30% at the end of the webinar, and we thought, oh, that's pretty good. 30% that started are still on. And it's very interesting. And I mean, we might even be able to put some clips of ours to some of you that are interested, just some clips of, we're not necessarily raising capital from you guys, that's not the intent, but to hear some pieces of kind of how he did it with us. It is a friggin' call to action. I mean, it's like, Brian, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like a timeshare deal. Any of you guys ever gone to listen to a time? I know you're going to get pissed at me, but any of you guys ever gone to a timeshare thing? And it's not really a timeshare, but they do get you, if you buy into the timeshare, just going there, they kind of get you excited about it. Oh, you like to travel here, you like to travel there. Oh, but you know, we have this opportunity right now, but you're not going to have this opportunity tomorrow. So if you're going to do this, you got to do it now. Now, the difference is I don't like timeshares. I have no interest in timeshares. My wife will never let us go to the same place ever. So that
I'm a lawyer.
Okay, I don't know who put that in there. That had to have been Rob. Yeah, you guys, that's Rob telling me to shut up. Oh, Rob claims he didn't do that. Someone did. I'm going to get whoever it was that did that. But anyway, I think that would be interesting. I'll have to go back through the clip and then I'll run it by Brian first to see what he thinks. It's Brian, I think people kind of understand your personality. I think they understand the call to, I keep saying call to action, and you said it right. It's not the primary thing, but it is the closing. The closing is call to action. And if you can,
it's a very clear instruction that now's the time, and if you don't act now, you don't get to act.
If you can keep 98% of people on for an hour and 10 minutes to the call to action, you're going to get a good result. Bhuvan and I kept 30%.
Let me demonstrate that right now, actually.
Yeah, go for it.
Here's the deal. What we've talked about tonight in terms of what I did for Merrill, that's not really relevant for most of you. I don't think, I suspect that not everybody has a project running right now, and even those of you who do, you may or may not have budget available to do that. Some of you will, and you're free to reach out to me. I don't promise you that I will take your project because I am slammed. I am doing a lot of these days. But there is something that Merrill wanted me to offer to you guys, and so I will. I do a training about this that's not $25,000, it's $6,000. And there are some of you on the line tonight probably who have been to that. And we do it remotely too. Like we're actually doing it physically. We do it small groups of people, 10 people, no more, period. I have 2 of those coming up. I don't even remember the dates here. But that's a 2-day thing. And I teach you basically the same thing. I mean, in my model, there are 5 steps to raising capital. I teach you all 5 steps, beginning to end, from lead generation all the way to getting people to sign the documents and send you the money. That's what the 2-day thing is. And just like the $25,000 day that's consulting where I do it for you, in this class where I teach you how to do it, same deal. It's a money back guarantee. Like you get to the end and you feel like you didn't get what I promised you, I give you your money back because I don't need your money. But I will keep it if you were happy with what you got. Now, with that in mind, I do have to run here in just a minute. I'm going to put something up on the screen. If you would like to see about getting one of those spots, I've got 2 of them coming up. One within the next 2 weeks and one that's basically about a month out. And I don't have all all 10 spots are not available for each one of them. There's several of the spots taken already. So we probably have 10 total. So if you want one of those, what you can do is do that. Text the word persuade to 555-888. And if you do that tonight, and we talk tomorrow and get you set up for the next time that for the time that you're going to do this, I'll give Merrill forced me to offer you guys $1,000 off because you're his people. And so it'll be less, it'll be $5,000 instead of $6,000. And I have literally never discounted it, literally, like ever, not once. I'm not that guy because I don't need to discount it, so I don't. But anyway, text persuade to 555-888. And I think if our technology is working right, it should write back to you and say, what's your name, what's your email, and when's a good time to reach out to you about this thing. But that's that. Look, guys, whether you do this, do my class or hire me or something else, I encourage you to just think differently. I mean, what if by tweaking just the words that you're using just a little bit, just by doing that, you could raise 50, 100, 200% more capital than you presently do from the same people that you're already working with. But guys, that's not hyperbole. Like I see that over and over again. That's kind of what Merrill described to you just a minute ago. You can do this. Now, it does take a little bit of learning. It takes rethinking about what's really important, and it takes using a slightly adjusted process than probably you think is normal. But if you think about it, you think what's normal is normal because it's the way you've always done it, but not because anybody who knows what they're doing has ever shown you how to do it. And my final parting thought is this. You might say, yeah, but what about person XYZ? They put up slides that have a resume for all the people and lots of data and lots of spreadsheets and lots of information. And, you know, person XYZ who speaks at these conferences and stuff that I know about, they're able to raise all the capital that they want. Well, there are two things you need to know. One of them is they too are shooting themselves in the foot. They too would raise probably 50 to 100% more if they did it correctly, if they talk to people in the way that people make decisions. And the other thing is this. They have an advantage that most of you don't. And that advantage is people already know them, like them, and trust them. They've already done deals with other people. When you're starting from that point, things get easier for sure. And that's great. You should always use that advantage. But if you don't have that advantage, or if you are marketing to a wider audience of people who don't know your name, I want you to think about the power of being able to put words together that grip people's souls and what you say, it just doesn't let go. That's why people stay to the end. That's why people say yes, because they know there's an opportunity. If they don't jump on it right freaking now, they don't get to. So if you would like to learn how to do that yourself, text persuade to 555-888 and I will reach out to you. It probably won't be tonight because I got stuff to do. I got to raise a bunch of money tonight, but tomorrow I will reach back out to you and we'll see about getting you set up for one of the next two trainings. Merrill, that's all I got tonight. I'm going to stop talking now and turn it back over to you. And thank you very much.
Hey, Brian, I appreciate it. We'll do the clapping like we do when we can't speak.
Hey, Brian, thank you.
Thank you,
Bhuvan. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And I put in the chat box. We'll send you. We always process our webinars, and once Jeff has it processed, we will send you guys out a copy of it tomorrow. Brian's information will be on there as well as our firm. Normally, you guys are going to hear me blah blah about what's going on in the market and some other things. I am 20 minutes late to my mastermind. Not that you guys are not important, but I've got to talk to them about some issues that are going on as well. I do want to put something out there. Brian, you don't have to leave yet, but that is directly correlated to capital raising. I am trying to put something together. I just have to find the time to get PowerPoints, because I'm about PowerPoints. I probably should listen to Brian and just do 3 bullet points, but there is some very bad capital raising going on in I want to say our group, but not necessarily our people, but with syndicators in general. There are investigations going on right now with a very large group, one that that myself and the Sharmas attended, and some of you attended in February. And so I'm very adamant, and Cindy just hopped on. I see Cindy now too. We're very adamant about making sure our investors and our clients, and any of you that aren't our clients that want to be or just want to hear about it, are not going into the gray area. You are not getting paid a % of capital to bring in a certain amount of capital. Okay, there are lots of cutesy little documents going out there, co-sponsor agreements, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go over a 12-page co-sponsor agreement that we just marked up. And I'm going to go over why I think it's not a good idea. And Greg, who I don't know if is on or not on, he may not be on video. Greg is one of our associates, actually did made a phone call to the SEC. We do it all the time not all the time, but we do it frequently on issues where we want to get an unofficial advisory opinion. So they won't, it's typical government. It's actually like talking to a lawyer. They're lawyers as well. They won't give you an answer, but they give you a suggestion of what the answer is going to be, and you read between the lines. So the bottom line is co-sponsoring agreements, especially the way we have seen these presented, are very gray. The bottom line is, if the SEC was a syndicator raising capital with these co-sponsor agreements, they would consider it very gray and wouldn't do it. So they didn't come out and say they're going after everybody doing it, but they didn't say, oh, black and white, this thing is not a problem, go for it. It is a way to circumvent or usurp the statutes that are in place right now on how you raise and can't raise capital. I promise you it's not going to be a boring webinar, but I think it's something that's so important, and some of you may not like it, and it wouldn't be the first time that you choose not to use our firm because we try to stay black and white. But our deal is we want to be partners with you as you guys go on. I don't want to be your cellmate, not soulmate, but cellmate. There, I got at least got Lance to laugh and Brian to laugh. Everybody else is sleeping when I talk. Lauren just picked up the phone, didn't want to hear me anymore. But anyway, I think it's very important. I do post a lot of things, and sometimes people don't like what I post, but I try to post what's black and white. We're black and white law firm. We'll tell you what's gray. We'll advise you don't do it. Sometimes you still do it. That's your choice. I've covered my ass, Cindy's covered her ass. We've told you we wouldn't do it. And to be honest with you, we worked on this agreement and the client still did it, but we made it very clear to the client that, one, this is very gray and it's very risky and we're not recommending you do it. However, this is the closest we can get to something that we would ever approve, but we don't approve it. Does that make sense? You get to a point where a client is going to do it. They're going to do it one way or another. So in our opinion, it was, let's try to make it as less gray as possible or least gray as possible. And that meant talking to the actual sponsor who was not on board with it. And it was with another lawyer who has done this before and been associated with, whether the lawyer was part of it or not, but been associated with a group that's under investigation. I don't know if that lawyer is a part of that group anymore, or representing that group, I should say. But guys, the SEC is looking for bad actors right now. This is the 6th investigation in a year by the Salt Lake City office. And the lawyer who is up there in the Salt Lake City office, he is gunning for people that are raising capital the wrong way, which ultimately affects investors. So guys, just please be careful. If you're raising capital now, do it the right way. I brought you someone like Brian who does it the right way. if you use someone like Brian to do the 25 grand like I did, you know, he is a third party that is representing the fund and getting out a PowerPoint presentation. That's it. He doesn't get a percent of what we do. He doesn't have any managerial obligations. I'm not saying, oh, Brian, you raise 5 million, you get 5% of the GP. No, can't do that. And so I'm going to go over this document. It means so much to me that I actually got approval from the clients. I said, listen, I'm not going to talk about you guys at all, but I just want to use this document as representation on what we're seeing, what we don't think people should be doing. And quite honestly, there's parts of the document that I would modify that could be construed as a legitimate way to raise capital, or to bring in capital partners, I should say, but clearly not the way Cindy and I and Greg saw the document that was finalized. So anyway, I am so tired of speaking. I have really bad hay fever, and again, this show is sponsored by Jaime Gonzalez, who has allowed me to see. You can see the big bags under my eyes. That's age and hay fever. But I really want to thank you guys. Sometimes I just feel like I'm rambling and posting crap on Facebook, and some people like it, some don't. I'm just trying to get information out. We're trying to get information out that helps everybody. We're all in this together. There are deals out there, guys. Please, 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 there are deals out there. Big shout out to Hutch, who's on here, the marine investor. My wife and I especially have a very special place in our hearts for the military. We both are from military backgrounds. Our dads were both Army and Navy, Army and Air Force, excuse me, respectively. Not Marine, sorry, but it doesn't matter. I know Joanne Schmidt was on. She may be off now. She has got a son or daughter in the Marines. She's in Alaska, so she's a huge proponent. I want to thank you especially, and Brian Sifford, if he's still on, for everything you guys do for our country. You are so undervalued by society in general. It's horrible. So again, thank you guys so much for everything you do. Joanne just popped in. She's got she'll have 2 in the military very quickly. Rob, what do we call her? The caribou.
Caribou Barbie.
Caribou Barbie. That's Joanne Schmidt in the bottom right purple. So we're going to introduce her because we're going to try to figure out something to do with her in the future. But when I first saw her getting online, I'm like, okay, this woman, one, kind of reminds me of my wife. Got guns and AK or AR-15s and stuff like that. And then I go and look through her Facebook pics. You should never do that when someone like me goes on. And I think her Thanksgiving, one of her Thanksgiving Day Facebook pics has literally 2 big does hanging on hooks in her front patio saying, oh, look what we have for Thanksgiving. So 1, you don't mess with this woman. 2, she is tough. We're gonna get her on a show. She has a sailor's mouth. I'm just giving you a heads up. Hutch would blush. I guarantee you, Hutch would blush if you heard her talk, but it's funny, she knows her shit. She very understates herself way more than she should. But Rob and I have been enamored by her skill set, her real estate knowledge. They have a construction company up in Juneau, Alaska, and they're doing, you know, probably $10 million in construction right now. She's building out a subdivision. She's looking to invest down here in the lower 48 because she knows it's so much better than Alaska. And so anyway, you'll hear from her, but we've muted her purposefully because this is a rated PG show right now. But I thought I'd give her a hard time. It's sunny right now in Alaska. I guess the sun is going to be up till like midnight tonight since we're getting close to summer.
Yeah,
it
is summer in Alaska. It's summer already.
Hey, Caribou, you can just introduce yourself real quick.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm not Caribou Barbie. That was actually the governor that quit her job after, I think, about 18 months. No, I'm just Joanne Schmidt. I grew up in Alaska. I've been an investor since 2003. So I have owned several multifamily apartment buildings. And like Meryl said, I am a developer, and yeah, I'm working pretty aggressively at finding some deals outside of Alaska. I haven't slowed down. In fact, I have a couple deals I'm analyzing right now, looking very, very promising. And you know, I look forward to networking with people. Meryl has introduced me to some new groups. So I think, you know, I've done really well by myself as an investor developer up here. And, you know, quite frankly, it is hard to network being 2,000 miles away from about everybody. But, you know, just like Brian said, and I do know Brian previously, and I was actually at that Raising Money Summit, and Brian does have a fantastic skill set. He knows what he's doing. He has an innovative approach to raising capital, and he will absolutely get it done. And as soon as I find a deal that is worthy, I'm going to use him too. For, you know, absolutely. So yeah, well, I'll just leave it at that. It's nice to meet everybody. Thank you. Thanks for the kind words, Meryl. And I'm still going to get you. I'm still going to roast you.
Oh, I know, and I want to thank Joanne especially, because that was the most censored discussion I've ever had with her. And so just so you guys think I have ADHD when it comes to businesses and stuff on my mind, she is that way on steroids. She exhausted Rob and I one time in a conference. It was funny. She is so many things going on and so much stuff going on in her head. I literally had a picture of my background of Juneau, Alaska. I thought it'd be cool and do a virtual background of Juneau. 40 minutes in the conversation, I'm like, hey, Joanne, do me a favor. Just actually look at the screen. You haven't looked at the screen. You're just talking and doing things and talking. And she was on point, but she looks at the screen. She's like, huh? Oh, yeah, I know that place. You know, I did it initially so she'd see that, you know, hey, you know, we like Alaska, even though we don't know anybody there, and there's 6 people that live there. But anyway, she's a very interesting woman and real estate entrepreneur. Hopefully we'll get to see her. But again, guys, I'm going to exit. If you guys have questions, great. I will tell you that the 1,815 page CARES Act 2 crap that was proposed is supposed to be available in the next day or so for people to review. If someone gets it, I'd be happy to review it if they get it before me. I'm only looking for 2 spots. One, the free giveaways to people for the rest of the year. I think I saw $2,000. Hope it wasn't a week, a month. And then maybe we will cover rents up to a certain amount, but we'll put in onerous provisions that hamstring the landlords. Keep in mind, whatever they do on the CARES Act, I know it affects a lot of people, but it only affects you if you have a Fannie or Freddie or HUD loan. They cannot dictate non-federally backed loans. I don't see something like that passing through the Senate, but nothing surprises me these days. So we'll talk about that. But again, I'm gonna get something out about this capital raise because it really bothers me. I want to make sure everybody is clear on it, because I really don't want you guys coming to us with deals like this, because I don't want to see anybody getting in trouble. The SEC is out there looking right now. Thanks everybody for being on. I can't believe we still have 80 people on, and it's been over for like 20 minutes. Hope everybody has a good rest of the week. Brian, man, you're awesome. I don't know why you gave everybody a discount and never me. That kind of pisses me off too. But
well, I like them better than I like you.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that does, you know, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, everybody have a good week. Feel free as usual, ask questions, shoot us emails, whatever. We'll have a recording come out tomorrow, and we'll send it out with some of Brian's information. Take care, people.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.